Nintendo's a weird company. I don't think you really need me to tell you that. And for better or worse, they kind of go their own way. And more times than not, they sort of go against the grain, at least for the rest of the industry. And now, with what's happening currently with Sony and Microsoft, basically everyone, where the push is all digital at this time, with game discs going away, it seems, manufacturing getting cutting back June 2028. Microsoft's been pretty quiet. I mean, look, I'd be shocked if Helix had any kind of like built-in disk drive at all. They're gonna do, I think, their disc to digital thing. The point is, Sony and Microsoft are, it seems now, full speed ahead on just a completely digital ecosystem. But Nintendo's a bit different right now, and while I think the plan for them currently is keeping physical around, I do wonder how long they can hold out. I'll at least talk about how far into the future I think Nintendo will go with this whole thing with physical media. But for now, let's take a look at some of the numbers. So if you guys enjoyed the video, hit the like button, subscribe if you're new. So this was over on Nintendo's recent quarterly earnings report. They put out this explanatory material, which is basically a PowerPoint presentation for everyone to kind of look through, especially obviously targeted towards investors with a lot of the information. But there is some stuff we can take away from it to at least get an idea as to where Nintendo is currently with their mindset. And this page was interesting. It's page 6, at least in the explanatory materials, how they have it marked here. And this does go over their digital sales. And they give us at least a proportion of digital sales here. And this may be a number that you've seen getting thrown around right now, where it appears to show 61.5% is just digital for Nintendo. So they are, I mean, majority digital in terms of the games that they're selling. And while they do, I mean, they tell us outright that's proportion of digital sales, as in just revenue coming in. Sure, that is correct. But if you look at the fine print, of course, there is as we've seen with many reports recently, it's not necessarily exactly how it's shown here. So that at least for the digital sales, that does include add-on content, microtransactions, and Nintendo Switch Online. And we know that they have 30 some odd million people who are subscribed, whether that's the $20 tier or the $50 tier. It does add up. So that just helps to, at least on their end, bolster the digital side. And why do they do that? Well, I mean, it does look good to investors. Like, there's no doubt about that. While we talk about uh, for some of us, the digital future and physical media going away as more of a frustration and something we don't necessarily want to see, investors who aren't necessarily plugged in and collecting games, I mean, most of them are like, okay, which one's highest margin? Digital? Great, let's do that. But here, Nintendo with the 61.5% proportion of digital sales, if you think about it in regards to, okay, what if you remove microtransactions, add-on content, NSO? I do wonder if that number is closer to 50%. Like, literally, it's half and half, 50-50 for physical versus digital. It's unfortunately based on the numbers that they're giving us here and the way that they present and even record the revenue, it's like impossible to tell with what they're showing us. I don't know if they do that on purpose or they don't really care to tell us either way. There was also some confusion around how Nintendo tracks game key cards, mostly because we had it get out that Capcom is tracking game key cards as digital sales. Nintendo does track game key cards as physical sales, okay? Specifically, that seemed to be something that was just for Capcom. I'm not really sure why they seem to track game key cards as digital, but that's not the case for Nintendo, okay? They do track it alongside of their full cartridge releases at retail. But the point is, Nintendo is more physical in terms of their games, just outright, even just with this rudimentary set of figures here. They are more physical in their games than Sony and Microsoft, just outright. Like, even so, I mean, Sony, they've tried to give us numbers, and people even look at those a bit sideways. But it's pretty clear Sony is more digital in terms of games that they sell, even just full packaged, full priced ones than Nintendo at this point. And so with that in mind, I've kind of talked about how Nintendo, I think, does value retail still, like, quite a bit. And part of that is because, yes, they're a very, very different kind of game company. And if you look at, like, in Japan, like, this is a very good indication to me as to where they are with physical media, because they do value Japan, that Japanese market, quite a bit. Why wouldn't they? Japan is like just about full on Nintendo. I mean, it's really like at this time, like 90% Nintendo for a lot of the software that sells. This, for example, is over on Install Base Forum, and it just tracks week to week using the Famitsu sales charts. And you'll see a release come out from Nintendo. These are all physical releases that are tracked over the like retail counter. And Splatoon Raiders sold more than 500,000 copies already, just completely physical. And I mean, just added another 73,000 copies this past week. You see Rhythm Heaven at, I mean, almost 750,000 copies physically. Tomodachi Life is 1.5 million. You see, the point I'm making here is just in Japan alone, Nintendo basically owns the retail space. And I mean, they're being set up now with Sony moving away from Blu-ray manufacturing for games in January 28. More so even. Like I would expect that a lot of the retail stores in Japan, but also across the world, to really lean into Nintendo and build out their sections further. I am curious for anyone out there, have you been to your local Walmart? I guess you could say Best Buy. For me though, Walmart's the one that really stuck out. Man, there's like no Xbox games for me anyway. They have like two shelves, and I think they forget to stock them because there's three Xbox games, like new release Xbox games there. But then all next to it are controllers and accessories. Like there is an Xbox section, but it's maybe 15% games at this point, which is a little concerning there. The PlayStation section does still have a significant number of games that are behind glass, and on the other side, controllers and systems and stuff. So that's still pretty healthy. But the Nintendo section is larger than both of them at this, but like combined, I'd say there is quite a bit of retail facing space that's dedicated to Nintendo. At least at the local Walmart, like I said, that I've been to, even Best Buy, there's multiple aisles now that's Nintendo. So in their mind, with their Blue Ocean strategy they've had for quite a while now, and how they really do target like I mean, just the family, younger gamers, older gamers, it does make sense to be at retail in a with a heavy presence, especially around like holidays and other times where maybe the parents or grandparents are out trying to pick up gifts. There's also a few other things that have been happening behind the scenes that I've noticed because I've done videos on this, even cutting open some of the cartridges to try to figure out what's happening and why all of a sudden games are starting to actually appear on cartridges, even for, we'll say, smaller companies or publishers or certain indie titles. And it seems that Nintendo is working in the opposite direction that we're seeing like Sony work in, where Sony is moving away from physical media. It seems like Nintendo is introducing more options for physical media to these different publishers. So this is one that was cited here by Nash Weedle. He's giving like the price points for these different physical. I vowed I have no idea if these are the actual price points for these cartridges or anything. I can tell you though, I have found that there are indeed different cartridge sizes that are out there right now. And I mean, if you just look at what we're seeing, where smaller games they're apparently getting access to cartridges, and then the cartridges are $50, $40. It's like, oh, well, that doesn't line up with what we know for the 64 gigabyte cartridge. And then after cutting open Mio, and that was a smaller cartridge, yeah, I think we're working towards that. But then, of course, we had the game keycard debacle that is still technically ongoing. I think people are coming around on them a little bit because they see what the alternate reality would be. The timeline split is that Nintendo goes, you know what, there are no more cartridges and we're just going digital. It's like, okay, game key cards are annoying, but I can technically still trade them in, so it's better than nothing. That's the level we're at right now in gaming with physical media. Going into 2027 just about at this point, certainly into 2028. But to me, the thing that's really annoying about game key cards isn't even necessarily that you download the game. It's that you download the game and then take up storage on the Switch too. And that's the frustrating part, because I think one of the reasons Nintendo is still has such a physical presence right now with their cartridges is because they're still convenient. Like, so if you like, I have a bunch of PS5 games here. You pop a PS5 disc in, it still installs from the disc. It takes time. You pop a cartridge, we'll say a first party game from Nintendo, Star Fox, pop it in. Maybe there's like an update that's 100 megabytes or something, and it downloads pretty quick and then you're off and running, but you're not downloading the game or installing the game. It just works off of the cartridge. There is convenience there. Like that makes sense. And it also doesn't take up storage on your Switch too. The game key card, unfortunately, it like is neither of those. It takes up storage, and then you also have to sit there and wait for it to download. So it's unfortunate that that is just where we are with some of these larger games, because some can't even fit on the 64 gigabyte cartridge. And it's like, what do you do at that point? But I actually think the game key card was introduced by Nintendo with the mindset of, we want to stick around with physical media. And this is like the only real option we could come up with right now, outside of, I guess, in introducing the $100 game. And that's still possible. Like, we could still see $100 games at some point in time. And I mean, they could be more special edition things down the road, but Nintendo has already moved in the direction of changing up the digital versus physical game prices. And I think digital games should just be cheaper than their physical counterpart. I think most people believe that, because I mean, there's just so much less cost involved with digital, but then the price is just kind of stays the same. And obviously that's because there's just more margin there and the publishers don't want to give that up. But we are seeing games like Star Fox be $50 digital. Splatoon Raiders $50 digital. It's like, that's okay, that's manageable. I mean, the counterparts physically is $60, and they're just saying, hey, if you want it physically, we will give you the option. It's just $10 more. And at first, there was a bit of a recoil, because I said, okay, did the game get more expensive or did it get cheaper? Yeah, we're getting more examples. Fire Emblem at $80 physically is like, ooh, okay. But the collectors out there, the Fire Emblem fans, go, okay, I'm going to get the collector's edition anyway, so that's $100 some odd, but all right. And that's the thing. It's like, hey, it is kind of getting in the territory of better to have the option than not. Because if you would rather have it cheaper, you get it digitally. So that's one of the things that was so weird to me, is Sony didn't explore, or hasn't at this point, has explored any of the other options, charging more for physical media. Like that is something it could do. Sell it specifically through their PlayStation store. Make these into fun collector's editions that are $100. But you know what? You get the disc, you get a manual, the slipcover, whatever else. Make it like a fun launch for enthusiasts out there that want to put up the money for it. And honestly, you could probably just make more money off of those people. It's interesting to see Nintendo moving in these directions, trying, I think, to keep physical games around for them with their retail presence. If I had to take a guess, so they're going to go the rest of this generation, obviously, which means we would go through, how long will the Switch 2 last? I would give it like 7 years, right? 8 years, maybe? 7 years. So we would be in like 2032 before we start really talking about a Switch 3. And then I think the next generation will also have physical media. It very well could be, it's just all game key cards, and like that's it, because honestly, file sizes may eclipse 64 gigabytes by then. Who knows where we are when it comes to like DRAM and RAM supply, whatever else, and how expensive things get. So they might just opt for game key cards, and you're downloading 100 gigabyte games or something. But I do still think there will be something on store shelves for next generation, which means, believe it or not, I think Nintendo will still be represented in retail stores like at least up to 2040. So there you go. I think Nintendo's going to be around for a while doing this, and obviously bucking the trend and continuing to be that really weird game company. But in this case, actually a good way. But let me know what you guys think about this one down below in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.